Provence, a land which seems to bask in the eternal light of summer. A place to escape and a chance to unwind. The pace of life is slower and the days are richer. A taste of a gentler life, in touch with nature, like a dream come true. Step beyond the romantic idyll and you'll discover that Provence is an unexpected wilderness, where wild animals live in forests that still stretch as far as the eye can see. It has a touch of the exotic, tens of thousands of flamingos and tropical treasures like tree frogs and bee-eaters. It's the native home of herbs, which paint its hillsides with colour and scent. And on its shores, a great river delta, the Camargue, a vast expanse of salt pans and shallow lagoons, creating scenes of what could be the Serengeti. Provence is so wild because of the passion of its people. This is a portrait seen through their eyes. The guardians who keep this secret Eden alive. Provence is the southeast corner of France, stretching down from the Alps to the Mediterranean coast. In between the mountains and the sea, much of it is a rugged, rolling landscape, dotted with medieval villages and world-famous for its painted hills. One plant more than any other gives the region its colour and its scent: lavender, a wild native herb which, now tamed, is famous throughout the world. Lionel Fra is the fourth generation of a family who have made their living growing it for the oil which the flowers produce, a natural oil which is prized for both its distinctive perfume and its antiseptic qualities.
It was cultivated because its fragrance was required by kings, I would say by the nobles of the world. We have found some writing in Egypt mentioning they were using the lavender essential oil, and it's quite a surprise.
Aromatic plants like lavender produce oils for a variety of reasons. Often the oils deter grazing animals or protect the plant from disease, but in Provence they play a vital role in helping the plants cope with the climate.
Researchers realized lavender secreted essential oil to protect itself from the sunlight. It is true, when the sun is at its zenith, you can smell the essential oil. It really has a special fragrance.
On sent vraiment l'huile essentielle, elle a vraiment une odeur un peu spéciale.
The oil acts as a natural sunscreen, protecting the plant's vital moisture, which is very important when the lavender comes into bloom. The fields buzz with nectar-sipping insects. Purple haze and a grasshopper serenade. When the hills of Provence are at their most beautiful.
Je suis peut-être pas connu dans la noblesse ou chez les snobs. Quand on veut me trouver, faut qu'on s'adresse dans tous les petits bars.
This floral ocean is harvest time, mid-July. The lavender is harvested and then left to dry for a day or two. The crop is then taken to the distillery, where steam is used to extract the precious oil, which is then put in a barrel and left to settle for a month. It's a whole perfume industry based on the natural aromatic properties of a native wild plant. Lavender is not the only fragrant plant that creates the scent of Provence. Cellist Ruth Phillips loves the other native herbs too.
Provence, for me, it's funny. The first thing that comes to mind is smell, actually, because here we're surrounded by thyme and rosemary, and particularly around by our house, it's quite pungent and it's very sort of aromatic.
Wild herbs are only part of what makes Provence so special for Ruth, and why she left England to live here.
There's a slower lifestyle here, which I like, and a lot of fantastic food and wine. I'm afraid it's pretty basic. Well, the Baroque cello particularly is all made out of very living materials, and the strings are made from gut, which of course modern players don't. They play on metal strings, but the register of the cello is very close to the human voice, actually, and it's very alive and human. Often playing outside, the sound gets lost, and here it's like a natural church. And if you're playing it and you can hear the sounds of nature all around you, actually it makes you stop and listen to the silence.
A stillness enriched by the song of cicadas. Sounds, and especially scent, are the essence of Provence, but it has a rugged side too. Mountains. And close by Ruth's house is the tallest in the region. White-topped Mount Ventoux. At 1900 meters, it's as high as some of the Alps, and certainly high enough to get snow in winter. But the summer snow here is actually white limestone. Its summit is a natural rock garden dotted with strange green mounds. Juniper trees which are pruned by the fierce mountain climate. Slightly lower down are rich wild flower meadows, perfect for shepherd Jean-Luc Mergenot and his herd of rare goats.
We are always outdoors with the goats, whatever the weather. It is the Rove goat, an endangered breed. There are 5,000 in France amongst 1,600,000 goats. It is a goat which provides a very rich milk.
Rove goats are a traditional breed well suited to the extremes of mountain life, which means they can graze on the wild herbs, exactly why Jean-Luc brings them here.
They eat a lot of wild thyme and other herbs, which means we find the taste in the cheese. The goats eating here bring us very good milk, very rich. So we make a fantastic cheese. What's more, the food they get here doesn't require any treatment. I do 17 to 18 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. But for me, it's not a profession. I love what I do. It does not feel like work. I'm lucky to walk around while I look after my goats. Sometimes while I graze here, I can see chamois 20-30 meters away. There are stags and does here. It is a natural reserve. The goats are super happy here. I let them go in the morning at dawn. We set off once the milking is finished. We spend all days in these meadows, in these immense pastures by these forests. They are swayed by the wind and the calm.
The mountains are also home to the goat's wild cousins, chamois, unusual animals, which are part goat and part antelope. Their skin, chamois leather, was traditionally used for cleaning glass and even cars, so even if you don't know the animal, you might know its hide. In summer, if you want to see one, you need to get up early. They clamber out onto the scree slopes to graze at dawn before the day heats up. They are very nimble creatures, can run very quickly over rocks, so if they feel threatened, they climb out onto the cliffs where they know nothing else can catch them. Chamois are not the only wildlife highlight hiding in the mountains of Provence. The rugged peaks and remote valleys are full of surprises, which is what brought wildlife guide Andrew Hargreaves here.
The mountains are very special here. It's a very underpopulated area. There's nobody else really bird watching. So for me, it's like a blank slate. I go out and I find things that nobody else has seen. In a different life, I was an engineer working in a factory 40 hours a week. So it's quite different to what I do now. This is my workshop. So it's a great improvement. We're very lucky to live here, to look forward every morning to going to work. Every day is different and a real pleasure. The spot here is one of my favourite spots to bring my guests, but it's also the place I come on my first day off. I'll come up here and it's a great pleasure, something I never tire of seeing the griffins taking off. This flying en masse is a spectacle that really you can't tire of. The griffon vultures as a bird are pretty unusual. They're highly gregarious and they've got these massive wings, 2.7 metre wingspan, so they're pretty clumsy, but once the wind gets up they've got free transport and they can go anywhere. They can go to any country more or less. They turn up all over the place. They go to Holland, Spain, Switzerland, Italy. They've turned up in Sardinia from this spot.
While the vultures prefer wild mountain gorges, another unusual wild creature often lives near old villages, and although very easy to hear, it's almost impossible to see. Just before dusk, a strange sound starts and continues all night, a rhythmical call like a giant insect. It's actually a tiny bird of prey, the Scops owl. Once a week, the quiet of the mornings are disturbed in a different way. Market Day, a feast for all the senses, full of local natural food, including Jean-Luc's goat's cheese. But even here, there can be trouble. Many villages mark the edge of the high country. They look out on a giant river plain, the flat and fertile valley of the River Rhône. The Rhône Valley is a giant corridor linking cold northern Europe to the warm Mediterranean. It can act as a vast air funnel, sucking freezing air in from the north on a biting wind which can blow for days, the Mistral. In summer, it's often just an annoying breeze, but it can be a monster. A force 10 gale, howling past at 120 kilometers per hour. But it's not all bad. The Mistral's cold, dry air blows evenly and clears the sky, which is why Provence is one of the sunniest and brightest regions of France. So it's not surprising it attracts beautiful visitors from the south, bee-eaters. They are a real sunshine species who have really sorted out their lifestyle, spending summers in southern Europe and winters in tropical Africa. Bee-eaters need wild riverbanks to tunnel into to make their nests, and where the River Rhône approaches the sea, they get all the wilderness they need. The river creates a huge delta, the Camargue. A great wetland full of reed beds, salt pans and lagoons, and until the last century, one of the wildest and remotest parts of Europe. A real lost world on the south coast of France. Henri Laurent heads a dynasty of French cowboys who guard a herd of some very special animals, wild black bulls, which along with the native white horses are the living emblems of the Camargue.
I think having a passion for bulls is a vocation. It's like asking a priest why he embraced such and such a religion. You cannot breed bulls without being passionate about horses. The horse is part of our life, like the bull. Anything we want to do with a bull needs to be done on horses, like in the old days.
The bulls have been here for thousands of years, and the horses even longer. Some say they are a living link to prehistoric Europe, when giant mammals roamed wild. Sadly, most large animals got hunted to extinction, but the Camargue was a refuge for some. Long ago, wild horses and cattle came here and were isolated here. The vast open landscape and ever-changing marshes kept them safe. Today, though, both the animals and the landscape they depend on are preserved by the passion of people like the Lorons.
All our lives, we've wanted to preserve the species that we have got left. So I'm passionate about any animal species, but above all, the bull.
La Camargue est faite d'une mosaïque.
The Camargue is made of a mosaic of passion and passionate people. There are some that love the Camargue for the bull, some others for the horse. Like me, some love it for everything. I think Camargue has to be protected by everyone. It is a European heritage, but now a world heritage. So, if we want to keep it for our own children, people have to help us protect it. Bulls, inhabitants and horses have to be protected, and the Camargue will remain as it has always been.
The Camargue is home to some of the most exotic wildlife in Europe. Creatures you might normally associate with the jungle, like tree frogs, or terrapins, both of which are, perhaps surprisingly, native species. The same cannot be said of these large rodents, coipu, which are originally from South America, giant aquatic cousins of guinea pigs. They were originally farmed for their fur decades ago, but fashion changed and the coipu escaped. And as they have no predators here, they enjoy an easy life in the wild marshes. Some of the Camargue's most beautiful wetland creatures are more delicate and need human protection. Fred Lamoureux and his family run a reserve, which is home to some of the most elegant of all birds.
Well, my family started to work and to live in Camargue in 1946. My grandfather created the park in 1949. At the beginning it was a small zoo, about 500 meters, and some small cages where you could have a look on all the bird species, all the mammal species in Camargue. And then in 1974 my dad takes the park, and he wanted to have a new concept, like a reserve. So he destroyed all the small cages, and now it's not the bird who are in cage, but maybe more the people on the small trail, and nobody can go out from the trail.
Mais tu sais, un petit peu transparente, un petit peu blanche, beige, et la femelle a un bec beaucoup plus foncé. Tu la différencies grâce à ça.
Camargue is an island because, first of all, if you want to come in Camargue, you have to cross a bridge. We have the Rhone on the two sides, east and west side, and we have the sea on the south. So Camargue is entirely a wetland. We study the pink flamingos, and we know a lot of things about the pink flamingos, and it's really interesting because many flamingos coming from all the part of the South Europe, like Turkey, Spain, Italy, Sardinia, and it's very interesting because the Camargue could be for the flamingos a small Europe. We guess that if they come to the 3 marshes of the park, first they've seen safe here, then they know that all the people looking at them are not dangerous because they couldn't go out from the trail. And that's very important to have a kind of a frontier between birds and human. The number of flamingos in summer, about 55,000 flamingos, and it's a good number. But this is a special species because they have only 1 egg. Only 35% of the eggs become an adult. We need to protect the flamingos, even if a lot of people in Camargue say we have a lot of flamingos, now it's okay, we don't need to have more. We don't protect the flamingos for having more flamingos. We just protect the flamingos because we know that this species is really, could be in danger quickly.
It's so easy to forget this is France. Journeys end in what truly could be Eden. A lost world full of rare and beautiful creatures, right in the heart of modern Europe. It's not without its threats, but it has the passion of its people, guardians who keep both its landscapes and wildlife alive.